Keep your $2 million, the single dad said. The lawyer blinked. He looked down at the offer letter on the kitchen table, then back up at the man across from him. The number printed there was $2 million. Clean and unambiguous. The kind of number that was supposed to end conversations, not start them. Nathan Cole picked up his coffee mug and looked out the window. His daughter June was in the backyard, crouching in the grass near the fence line, studying something on the ground the way 8-year-olds studied things, completely, without hurry. "Tell Miss Aldridge I'm not interested," Nathan said. The lawyer left. The offer letter stayed on the table. What nobody in Claire Aldridge's organization understood, what nobody outside this county could have known, was that the 43 acres Nathan Cole had inherited from his father was not simply a piece of rural Kentucky land sitting inconveniently between a creek and a ridge. It was the only parcel with road access to the 200-acre tract Claire had spent 18 months and $30 million assembling for the largest private luxury resort development in the eastern United States. Without Nathan's land, her entire project was landlocked. Without Nathan's land, 200 acres of investment became 200 acres of beautiful, inaccessible nothing. Nathan knew this. He had known it since the first surveyor showed up 14 months ago and started walking the fence line with equipment that cost more than his truck. He'd done his research quietly, the way he did most things. He'd pulled the county maps, read the easement records, talked to a land attorney in Lexington who confirmed what he already suspected. There was no alternate route. The terrain on the north side was protected wetland. The south approach was a 40-degree slope that no road engineer would touch. The creek on the east side flooded every spring. The only way in was through Nathan Cole's front gate, and Nathan Cole was not selling. Claire Aldridge arrived herself 3 days after the lawyer. She drove a white Range Rover up the gravel drive and stepped out in clothes that were expensive in a way that looked effortless, which meant someone had worked very hard to make them look that way. She was 40-something, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who had built her company from a single boutique hotel in Charleston into a portfolio of 17 luxury properties by being smarter and faster and more relentless than everyone in every room she walked into. She had not, in her adult professional life, been told no more than twice by the same person. Nathan was on the porch when she pulled up. He didn't stand. He waited. She introduced herself and told him she wanted to talk directly, without intermediaries, because she respected his position and believed they could find a solution that worked for both of them. It was a good speech. Rehearsed, but good. Nathan listened to all of it. Then he said, "Would you like some coffee?" She said yes, because saying no would have been rude, and Claire Aldridge was never rude when she needed something. They sat on the porch and drank coffee while the property spread out around them, the fence line, the old oak tree his father had planted, the gentle slope down toward the field where the wildflowers came up every May without anyone planting them. She made a new offer, $2.4 million. She explained what the development would mean for the county. Jobs, tax revenue, infrastructure. She talked about it the way people talked about things they believed in. Nathan listened. He was good at listening. It was one of the things his late wife Margaret had loved about him, that he never felt the need to fill silence with his own voice just to prove he was paying attention. "I appreciate that," he said when she finished. But no. Claire set down her coffee mug. The warmth in her expression dropped just a fraction. "Can I ask why?" Nathan looked out at the yard. June had come around the side of the house and was watching the Range Rover with unconcealed interest. "June," he said. "Come say hello." June came up the porch steps and shook Claire Aldridge's hand with the seriousness of someone who had been taught that handshakes mattered. Then she looked up at the woman. "Are you the one who wants to buy our land?" "I am," Claire said. Daddy said no. "I know. I'm trying to understand why." June looked at her father. Something passed between them, the quiet shorthand of people who had been through things together and come out the other side still standing. "Can I show her?" June asked. Nathan thought about it. Then he nodded. June led Claire Aldridge across the backyard, through the gate at the far fence, and down a short path worn smooth by years of Sunday mornings. The path ended at a small clearing under 2 oak trees. A headstone stood there, white marble, simple, Margaret Cole. Beloved wife and mother. The wildflowers his wife had planted herself years ago grew all around it, unhurried and unstoppable. Claire stood at the edge of the clearing. June sat down in the grass near the stone without any ceremony about it. The way a person sits near something they visit often, natural, like breathing. Nobody said anything for a moment. Then Claire said, quietly, "I didn't know." "You didn't ask," Nathan said from behind her. He wasn't angry when he said it. That was the thing she hadn't expected. There was no bitterness in his voice, no performance of grief designed to make her feel bad. It was just a fact, offered plainly. She didn't come back with a third offer that day. She got in the Range Rover and drove back down the gravel path. Nathan watched the dust settle behind her. He thought it might be over. He was wrong. That night after June was in bed, Nathan sat at the kitchen table with the offer letter still on the corner where the lawyer had left it. $2 million. He looked at it for a while. Not with temptation, that had passed quickly, but with a kind of recognition. He understood what it represented. It wasn't cruelty on Claire Aldridge's part. It was assumption. The assumption that every man had a number, and that finding it was simply a matter of patience and research and zeros. Nobody had told her about Margaret. Nobody had thought to ask. He folded the letter in half and put it in the recycling. The calls started the following week. A different lawyer this time, one with a harder edge. She talked about eminent domain applications and county road petitions and alternate easement filings. Nathan listened to all of it and then called the attorney in Lexington, who told him that everything the lawyer had mentioned would take years, cost millions in litigation, and had a near zero probability of success given the specific terrain and environmental protections involved. Nathan thanked him and hung up. On the 7th day, the County Road Commission sent an engineer to survey the northern approach. The engineer spent 4 hours on the ridge and drove away shaking his head. On the 8th day, a firm Claire had hired to assess a creek crossing on the eastern boundary submitted their report. The flooding data was what Nathan knew it would be. Prohibitive. On the 9th day, nothing happened. On the 10th day, Claire Aldridge drove back up the gravel path. This time, she came alone. No lawyers, no clipboard, no prepared remarks. She parked and sat in the Range Rover for a moment before she got out. Nathan was repairing a section of fence near the barn and watched her walk toward him across the field. She looked different. Not smaller exactly, but as though something that had been pulled very tight had been allowed to relax. "I owe you an apology," she said. He kept working. "You don't owe me anything. I treated your land like a line item." She stopped a few feet away. The wind moved through the grass between them. "I treated you like an obstacle." Nathan set down his tool and looked at her directly for the first time in any of their conversations. "What changed?" he asked. "Nothing changed." She said it evenly. "That's the problem. I ran every alternative, hired everyone I could hire, spent $300,000 in 2 weeks trying to find another way, and there isn't one." She paused. "I still need your land, Mr. Cole, but I'm done pretending I have leverage I don't have. So I'm asking, not offering." Asking? He was quiet for a long time. A hawk turned slow circles above the ridge. "There's a conservation easement structure," he said finally. "I keep the land. I keep the title. The grave stays. The path stays. June can walk it every Sunday for the rest of her life." He looked at the fence line. "You get a road easement. 30 feet wide, defined route, engineered to leave the clearing untouched. You pay the County Conservation Fund $2 million in my name as a condition of the agreement." He met her eyes. "Not to me. To the fund. for land preservation programs in this county. Claire said nothing for a moment. "That's it?" she asked. "That's it." She looked at the property around them, at the oak tree, at the path through the gate, at the small headstone visible just beyond the fence line in the afternoon light. "Why the conservation fund?" she asked. "Why not take the money yourself?" Nathan picked up his tool and turned back to the fence. "Because Margaret loved this county," he said. "And I have everything I need." The paperwork took 6 weeks. Claire's attorneys drafted it, Nathan's Lexington attorney reviewed it, and the County Conservation Fund accepted the $2 million contribution with a letter that 3 board members signed by hand. The easement was recorded. The road was engineered to curve precisely around the clearing wide berth exactly as specified. The luxury resort opened 14 months later. The road that connected it to the highway ran along the western edge of Nathan Cole's property, 30 feet wide, just as agreed. Guests drove past the old oak tree on their way in. Most of them didn't know what it meant. That was fine. On Sunday mornings, June still walked the path through the back gate. Same worn dirt, same quiet clearing. Same wildflowers coming up each May without anyone telling them to. Nathan sometimes went with her, and sometimes sat on the porch and watched her go, small and steady through the grass. He had turned down $2 million. He had been called to the mat by lawyers, surveyors, engineers, and one of the most relentless businesswomen in the eastern United States. He had not moved, not because he was stubborn, not because he wanted to win, because there are things that don't have a price, and the only way to protect them is to know that before someone puts a number on the table and watches your face. June came back up the path one evening just before dark, cheeks pink from the cold, and climbed the porch steps and leaned against his shoulder. "Daddy," she said. "Yeah, baby. Do you think Mama can see the resort from where she is?" He thought about it. "I think she can see exactly what matters," he said. June nodded like that made sense. They sat together until the light went, and the first stars came out over the ridge, and the property around them was exactly as it had always been. His, theirs, hers, untouched and whole.